Emails, one of the most popular methods used by an attacker to achieve initial access, specifically using the technique phishing. As a SOC analyst, it is crucial for you to understand how to analyze emails. In today's video, I'll walk you through a CTF-like lab from Blue Team Cyber Range called the Planet's Prestige, and I would encourage you to follow along to get the most out of this video. Let's get started. All right, heading over to blueteamlabs.online, and if you don't have an account yet, you can register for one here. But if you do, you can go ahead and just hit login and log into your account. Once you're logged in, you want to go and select challenges, which is located at the top. Next, you want to search planet and hit enter. You should see the Planet's Prestige. So we'll go ahead and hit start challenge. Very quickly, we'll go over the scenario here. So Kokanda, a planet known as the heaven of the universe, has been having a bad year. A series of riots have taken place across the planet due to the frequent abduction of citizens, known as Kokandians, by a mysterious force. Kokanda's planetary president arranged a war room with the best brains and military leaders to work on a solution. After the meeting concluded, the president was informed his daughter had disappeared. Kokanda agents spread across multiple planets were working day and night to locate her. 2 days later, and there is no update on the situation. No demand for ransom, not even a single clue regarding the whereabouts of the missing people. On the third day, a Kokanda representative, an army major on Earth, received an email. This is a pretty interesting scenario where we'll go into the email that the army major had received. So let's go ahead and start downloading the email itself. I'll click on download file. And you do want to keep in mind of the password. The password is BTLO, all lowercase. For my machine, I'll be using a Windows virtual machine to perform my analysis using Notepad++, but you can use whatever text editor you like. And I'll also have an application called HXD, which is what I'll use to view some files in hex. And lastly, I'll have 7-zip installed as well. Once the file is downloaded, just right-click it and click on extract all. Then we'll go ahead and extract it using the password BTLO, all lowercase. And now we have the email file right here. I'll go ahead and right-click this email file and click on Edit with Notepad++. If this is your first time analyzing emails, it can be quite confusing, especially with the amount of information you see here. But let's just take it slow and I'll start from the top. The very first field is delivered to. Now, this field is who received the email, which in our case, it is themajoronEarth@gmail.com. Next, we have received, or received by. These are email servers that have received the email, similar to how post office delivers their mail. The mail will end up in multiple post offices before reaching the post office that is closest to the recipient. And the first received by from the top is the closest mail server to the recipient. Whereas if we were to scroll down just a little bit, the very first received field is going to be the one that is closest to the sender. And just so we're all on the same page, at the bottom, the very first received field is going to be the mail server that's closest to the sender, whereas all the way at the top, the first received field from the top is going to be closest to the recipient. Next are headers that have an X appended to the front. These are called X headers, and they are optional and included by tools or mail servers. And then we have what are called ARC headers, aka authenticated received chain headers. These are used for verification purposes by having a trusted intermediate email server digitally sign the header. Scrolling down just a bit, passing all of the ARC headers, we get return path. This is the email address that will be used if the email fails to send, which is typically used for troubleshooting purposes. Now, I'm sure you've experienced this once upon a time where you tried to send an email, but then you got an email failed to deliver. And because you received the email failed to deliver, your email address was likely put into the return path. Moving down just a bit, we have authentication results. This is where we can see the statuses for email protection such as SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. As we can see, SPF is currently set to fail, meaning that the domain of MicroApple, which is this one right here, microapple.com, does not permit the mail server of 93.99.104.210 as a permitted sender. In other words, microapple.com does not know who the heck 93.99.104.210 is. And when you're performing email analysis, looking at the SPF, DKIM, and DMARC statuses is a good indicator for suspicious emails. If SPF is set to fail, you might want to take a deeper look into it. And then we have the two, which is the recipient, the subject, and the from. So who sent the email? Now, if we were to just scroll down a little bit here, we have the importance that is set to normal. These are quite self-explanatory, but then we have reply to. So the reply to email address that is listed here is what will be used the moment the recipient clicks on reply to the email. And if you notice, the email has a domain of pashter.com. And then if we look at the from email, it is from microapple.com. Because there's a discrepancy between the two, that is pretty suspicious. Not only did SPF fail, but the email addresses in the from and reply to field are different. And then we have content type. This field is to instruct the mail server on how to render the content of the email. With it being multi-part / mixed, that means there are multiple formats, and it also has a boundary set for it, where the boundary is bound_600. A boundary is used to let the mail server know when to start and stop rendering the content using a certain format. Next, we have message ID, which is a unique identifier to help keep track of this email. And finally, we have the date, when the recipient received the email. Now, do keep in mind that the date field can be spoofed. We then see our first boundary, which will tell the mail server to start rendering the content using the following format. If we look at the content type, it says text/plain. So it's telling the mail server to, hey, render this content using plain text format. But at the bottom, we see an encoding as well. You want to encode it using base64. So then the mail server is like, sure, why not? Let me render this using plain text and I'll encode it using base64. And anytime we get hit with a base64, we want to start decoding it to see the content of it. So we can highlight it, right click, go ahead and copy that. And then we'll use a trusty tool called Cyberchef. Over on Cyberchef, I'll go ahead and just paste that over into the inputs. And then you can either search for base64, or if you look at the bottom, you can see from base64. So I'll go ahead and just drag that over. And immediately at the bottom from the outputs, let me zoom in just a little bit. We can see the outputs here. And it says, hi, the major on Earth. The abducted Kokandians are with me, including the president's daughter. Don't worry, they are safe in a secret location. Send me 1 billion Kokandis in cash. With a spaceship and my autonomous bots will safely bring back your citizens. I heard that Kokandians have the best brains in the universe. Solve the puzzle I sent as an attachment for the next step. I'm approximately 12.8 light minutes away from the sun, and my advice for the puzzle is don't trust your eyes. Then we can go ahead and click on Save Output to File, and I'll just call this as email.txt. Click on OK, and we got that saved out. Now in the body of this email, they mentioned something about an attachment. So let's head back over to our Notepad++, and then we see the boundary again, which will tell the mail server that this is the end for that particular piece of content. Now, if we scroll down, we do see a content type of application/PDF with the name of puzzle to kokanda.pdf. So this is going to be the attachment that was mentioned in the body of the email. We do see the content transfer encoding as base64, and we do see the base64 content here. So just like previously, I'll go ahead and copy this out, head over to Cyberchef. I'll add a new tab by clicking on the plus button. And then let's go ahead and paste that in. Now, once we have the decoded base64, we can go ahead and save out the output if we want. But before we do that, I'm actually going to select to hex and convert this into hexadecimal. Now, the reason I am doing this is because if we take a look at the first couple bytes, which is 50 4B 03 04. The first byte of a file makes up what is called a file signature, aka a magic number or file header. And just because the file name right here is called puzzle2cocanda.pdf doesn't necessarily mean it is a PDF file. We want to always take a look at the file signature for a file to determine exactly what that file is. Now going back over to CyberChef and copying the first couple bytes, I am going to use a site called Gary Kessler File Signature. And I'll click on this one right here where it's garykessler.net. And then just do a Control F and paste in those first couple bytes. Now we quickly see that the first couple bytes relate to a zip extension. Interesting. Now it did say PDF over to the file name. However, if we took a look at the file signature, it has a file extension of zip. What if we did PDF instead? So if I were to just search up PDF, looking at the file extension, I am looking for PDF and not DRMZ. I'll just keep on clicking next. And finally, we have the PDF extension. Now, the first couple bytes for the PDF is 25, 50, 44, 46. And if we were to go back over to our CyberChef, that is not the first couple bytes. Pretty interesting, right? We can go and remove the 2 hex to have it all decoded, and I will save this file and call it attachment.zip. Click on OK. And now we have our zipped file. Now remember, whenever you're doing any kind of analysis, especially one that might contain malware, always use a virtual machine and not your host. I'll go ahead and open this up, right click it, and extract all. Click on extract, and we get a puzzle2cocanda directory. So let's go ahead and open that up. And we see 2 files here. But just in case there are any hidden files, I'm going to click on view and check off hidden items. And now we see an additional file called money.xlsx, which is a file extension for Microsoft Excel. Now, is that actually Excel? That is something for us to figure out. Now, because I do have a tool called HXD, again, link down below if you want to download it, I can view these files in their hex format. So I'll go ahead and drag daughter's crown over to HXD. And let's take a look at the first couple bytes. So the first one here is FF D8, FF, E0. Let's go ahead and copy that. Head over to File Signatures from Gary Kessler, Control F, and paste that in. We can see that the first couple bytes relate to a JPEG file. I am going to go back to the file and I'll click on Rename. And let's just add a .jpeg extension to it. And once that's added, double click it and we get a picture. Nice. Let's do the same for the other one. Now, just as an FYI, you want to always enable file name extension because if you don't, you won't be able to manually change the file extension here. Now, sometimes you can. It's kind of odd, but just to make sure everything works properly, always have file name extension checked. Open the HXD and then I'll click on New and let's drag over the good job major. Take a look at the first couple bytes again. We have 25, 50, 44, and 46. Now, if that sounded familiar to you, that is because we checked this earlier, which turned out to be a PDF. So I'll go ahead and change good job major and I'll add the extension .pdf. Now we can double click it. We see that it says, hey, Cocandians are safe. The proof is in the file named Daughter's Crown. Location to send 1 billion Cocandies is in the money.xlsx file. Okay, head over to the directory. I'll open up another HXD and I'll drag in the money.xlsx. The first couple bytes is 50, 4B0304. Copy that out, head over to file signatures, and I'll paste that in. Now we do see a .zip file, which is what we saw earlier. However, if we just kept going down just a little bit, we do see Microsoft Open Office XML format. We can safely say that this is an Excel document. Now, what if we don't have Excel installed on a virtual machine, which I do not have? Now we can go ahead and install Excel or OpenOffice, or what I'll do is use a tool called SquareX. They have a file viewer that you can use to drag and drop your files and then it will open it for you. Now you can go ahead and sign up with the link down below. It is a tool that I always use during my analysis. Now that I opened up the file viewer, I'll go ahead and just drag the money.xlsx file and into SquareX. With this file, it says, whatever you have seen or read till now is fake. Our intention was not for money. It is the beginning of the war with Kokandian. It's not that easy to find this major. I will also stay in the same location, but I bet Kokandians can't do anything in my planet. Find and come ASAP. I'm waiting. Okay, with this Excel file, we do have 2 sheets. So this one is sheet 1, this one is sheet 3. And sheet 3 appears to have nothing in it. And because this lab is like a CTF lab, there might be some trickery in here where the text is blended in using the colored white. So what I'll do is I'll select everything, right click, and then I'll click on clear format. That way, if there's any kind of formatting happening, I will see it right here. So sheet 1 seems like it's all good, but what about sheet 3? Because it's blank and there's a sheet, it's kind of suspicious here. So clear format, and we do see a base 64. So go ahead and copy that. Head over to our CyberChef, open up another tab by clicking on the plus, and let's go ahead and paste that in. So it says the Martian colony. Nice. Okay, I'll go ahead and copy that out and put that into our notes. Now let's do a quick recap before we head over to the questions because we just went over a lot of things. So if we take a look at our email and scrolling back up, the malicious actor sent an email from BillJobs@microapple.com to the major on earth at gmail.com with the subject of a hope to Kokanda on January 26, 2021 at 1:41:18 Eastern Standard Time. The return path, if we scroll up, is set to BillJobs@microapple.com. So this email is going to receive any emails that were failed to deliver. However, if we take a look at the reply to, it is a completely different email, one that is ending in pashter.com. If we scroll up just a little bit, we can see that the malicious actor used an email service called mk.cz. And if we were to just search that up to see what that is, and we can see that it is a fake mailer. MK's fake mailer is a web-based tool that allows you to create and send fake emails. So we know that the threat actor used an email service called MK. And the contents of the email was a threat to the major on earth, demanding 1 billion in cash, along with an attachment that was supposedly a PDF file, but it actually turned out to be a zip file. And within that zip, it contained 3 files, 1 JPEG, 1 PDF, and 1 Excel file. The next thing I'm about to say is extremely important, so make sure that you take a note of it. When performing email analysis, there are some important fields that you should put more focus on, and those are the following. First and foremost, received. So these are the mail servers that received the email. What you want to do is perform OSINT on these mail servers. So for example, taking a look at the sender IP, you want to check out the IP reputation. You also want to check out the domain reputation as well. And of course, what we just did, the email service. This will provide you with some context when you're doing your analysis. The next thing is return path. Look at the email address itself, because if you recall, the return path is the email address that will receive a failed or error in email delivery. And then we have authentication results. This is where you can find the status of SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Remember, anytime you see SPF failed, that is pretty weird and you should put more effort into investigating that email. And then we have the to, so this is the recipient who received that email. Then the subject itself, which is the subject of the email. If you have an email security gateway, or if you have the ability to search emails across your organization, you can use the subject field to see who else received a similar email. And then we have the from, so who sent that email. In this case, we have the name Bill and the email of BillJobs@microapple.com. You always want to focus on the email address itself rather than the name. Now, this can be spoofed, of course, but it's always a good idea to keep note of it. Because again, you can always search your emails across your organization, searching specifically emails that are sent from this user. And then we have reply to. So this is the email address that will be used if the recipient clicks on reply. It is a quick win if you notice that the from email address and the reply to email address is different. Because if you think about this logically, if I send you an email and you reply, I want to get that reply. Why is that reply going to somebody else's email? Something like that, which is a question that you should ask yourself. And then we have content type. This is how the mail server is going to render the content. If you do see boundary, that means you'll see multiple formats. And then you have message ID. This is incredibly useful, again, if you're searching emails across the organization. This keeps track of where that email went. And finally, you have the date. Do keep in mind that the date can be spoofed, but take note of it nonetheless, as it is a good starting point. Again, anytime you receive an email, you want to focus on these fields as they can provide you with quick wins. Now, in my course, we go into more detail about email analysis, and I'll also show you some other tools that you can use. My course is going to be a paid course, but it will be absolutely worth it. Trust me. I'll leave a link down for you to sign up for the waitlist if you're interested. Now let's move on to the questions. So it says, what is the email service used by the malicious actor? Now we know this by going back over. We saw a fake email service that was used, which is mk.cz. So I'll go ahead and copy that and I'll paste it here. Click on submit. Perfect. What is the reply to email address? That's pretty easy. I'll go ahead and copy this one out. Now remember, reply to is whenever the recipient clicks on reply, that is going to be the email address for that. Paste that in, hit submit. What is the file type of the received attachment that helped to continue the investigation? If we look at our email, scrolling down, we do see the content type as PDF, but when we did our analysis, it wasn't actually a PDF, right? It was a .zip file. What is the name of the malicious actor? This one's quite interesting. If we take a look at the email, let's see if there's a name here. So we see the from field and it is from Bill, but it's asking for a last name as well. So Bill is probably not the one unless you put in Bill Jobs. But if we think about it, the reply to field is a different email address. And because it is a different email address, it makes me believe that this is actually the threat actor or the malicious actor here. What we can do is use a tool called XF tool and take a look at the metadata of the attachment itself. Because if the threat actor was responsible for creating it, they might leave some clues in there. To take a look at the metadata, I'm going to be using a tool called XF tool. And again, I'll leave the download links down below. So I'll use XF tool-F to specify my files, and I am going to take a look at the attachments. So I'll go ahead and just copy the path and I'll paste it in here, / with an asterisk. And using XF tool will show us all the interesting metadata for these files here. So we have the zip file name, the MIME type, let's see, file modification, access and creation, but nothing about a name. And oh, right here, author. So we can see a name, Pestero Negeja. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but there you go. First and last name. I'm going to assume that that is the one because it does match our reply to email, right? The last name, Negeja, is right here. Paste that in, hit submit, and we got it. Perfect. What is the location of the attacker in this universe? What is the location of the attacker in this universe? Okay. I do recall seeing this, the Martian colony. This is the decoded base 64 that we found in the Excel document called money. So I'll go ahead and just copy that because this sounds like a location to me. Paste that in here and submit. Nice. What could be the probable CNC, so command and control domain to control the attacker's autonomous bots? Taking a look at the email, we do see pasture.com from this malicious actor, and there weren't any other URLs that we've seen other than the fake email service here. But because this domain is tied to the malicious actor, I'm going to assume that this is going to be the C2 domain. Gonna go ahead and paste it and submit. And awesome, we just completed it. Email analysis is something that you should frequently expect to see as a SOC analyst. And by learning what the important fields are will definitely help you in your investigations. Again, if you're interested in my course, the waitlist to the link is down below. I'll provide the pricing to you shortly once I have finalized all of the content. And my goal here is to try and release it in sometime in May or by June. But in the meantime, continue to level up your skills and get better every single day. That is it for the video, and I hope you found that informative. If you did, please share this with other aspiring SOC analysts and subscribe if you want to. Remember to stay curious and do things differently.